Loops in JavaScript can really save you a lot of time, and we have briefly looked at loops throughout the course already, but we're going to dive deeper into loops and how they work. So there are different types of loops in JavaScript. There's for loops, while loops, for in loops, and just looping in general. So there's a lot of different ways to present your loops. So let's open up our editor and take a look on our server here, so our local host. We see that we've just simplified some of that HTML code, so only the stuff that we're going to be using. So it kept the two buttons, kept that output, and kept this input field. And then of course we still have that hookup of the event listener on button one click. So this gives us the ability to click that, run the function called myFun, and then we're going to place all of our source code within the myFun function. So the first loop that we're going to look at is going to be a while loop. So let's take a look at this, and I'm going to just update the my container, and I'm going to set it to equal while loop. So we know which one we're looking at, and I'm also going to put a line break there so that outputs it that we do have some HTML within there. And next I want to take a look, and I'm going to do that same thing where I pick up that value. So in order to make it dynamic, so a lot of times we would have some dynamically changing values here, we'll get document get element by ID, and we'll pick up that value that's contained within the input type there. So num a value, and save that. So now we get the value in A, and here comes our loop. So this is the while loop. So simply while, and we're going to loop it while A is maybe less than 10. Then we're going to run through our loop. So we've got our loop over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to add to my container. So we're going to simply concatenate additional string information into the my container, so adding it in as it loops through. And maybe one of the things we want to output is that initial value of A, and concatenate over maybe something like new number or something like that. So every time it loops through here, it's going to add in A, it's going to add to the my container, it's going to add A to it, and new number, the string new number. So there's one thing that's missing here, and we need to include this within a loop because we need to have A incrementing. If we leave this part out, then A will never reach over 10, and we're never going to break the loop. So it's going to run indefinitely, and that just, it's not good news, because essentially if you run that loop indefinitely, it's going to crash your browser. So let's update that inner HTML with the contents of my container and go out into our browser and check out what happens here. So we see here that because we have a value of 6, we start at 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we've got our condition here. So we notice that we don't have an equal sign there. So that just means that as soon as it hits 10, that this condition is no longer true. The condition turns to false, and it breaks the loop, and it outputs the content into output element, and that's where we get this result. So even if I started at 2, we see we get 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down, and this is how the while loop works. So essentially it's got all of the same elements, and all of the loops are going to have those same contents where you're looking for a condition to be met, you've got a starting number, and you're incrementing. So in the next lesson we're going to look at a do loop. So this is going to be slightly different again, and it's just another way to output your loop and present your data within your JavaScript. So let's take a look at that in the next lesson.